Picture this: the oven is warming up, the kitchen smells like garlic hitting hot oil, and there's that quiet promise of something comforting about to happen. Today I'm bringing you straight into Brazilian home cooking with a dish that's creamy, savory, and surprisingly simple to make: Escondidinho de carne Sica. It's the kind of recipe people serve on a Sunday, when you want everyone to feel taken care of, but it still comes out looking like you really planned something special. If you've never cooked with mandioca, also called cassava, don't worry. I'll walk you through it in a clear way, step by step, so you can get that silky, smooth mash without stress. And if carne Sica is new to you, you're in for a treat. It's deeply flavorful, a little rustic, and it turns this casserole into pure Brazilian comfort. This recipe is beloved across the country, especially in the Northeast and Southeast, and every family has their own little twist. Mine leans into creaminess, with requeijo tucked right in the middle like a secret layer you only discover when you scoop. Before we start, take a second and tell me in the comments, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil? Is it the food, the music, the regional traditions, the ingredients you've never seen before? I read those questions, and they help me choose what to cook next. And if you enjoy Brazilian recipes explained in a straightforward, practical way, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, here's the one mistake that can ruin this dish if nobody warns you: not desalting the meat properly. Carne Sica is cured, so if you skip that step or rush it, your escondidinho can come out way too salty, no matter how creamy the mash is. In a minute I'll show you exactly how to avoid that so the flavors stay balanced and the dish tastes rich, not overwhelming. Let's start where the comfort begins: 1 kilogram of cooked mandioca, ready to become a mash so smooth it practically melts, while we get the carne Sica sizzling and fragrant on the stove. Now, let's start with the part that makes this escondidinho feel like pure comfort: the mandioca. If you've never cooked with cassava before, don't worry. Think of it like the Brazilian cousin of mashed potatoes, but with a deeper, slightly nutty flavor that turns unbelievably creamy when it's done right. I've got about 1 kilo of mandioca already cooked until it's very soft, the kind that almost falls apart when you poke it. And here's a small detail that makes a big difference: before mashing, I'm checking for any tough stringy cores, those little fibers that sometimes hide in the middle. If you remove them now, your mash becomes silky instead of rustic. I move the mandioca to a bowl while it's still warm, because warm mandioca mashes easier and absorbs flavor better. A generous spoon of butter goes in first, and you can almost hear it melt as it touches the heat. Then a splash of milk, not all at once, little by little, until the texture turns smooth and creamy, like a thick velvet. I want it spreadable, not runny, because it needs to sit on top of the filling without sinking. While that mash rests for a second, let's talk about the star of the filling: carne Sica. This is where most people slip up. If you don't desalt it properly, the whole dish can end up salty, no matter how perfect everything else is. So make sure it's been soaked and changed in water, and cooked until tender before you shred it. Here, I'm working with about 500 grams, already shredded into thin strands. In a hot pan, a drizzle of oil, then chopped onion. I let it soften until it turns golden and sweet around the edges. Garlic goes in next, just long enough to perfume the kitchen, and then the carne Sica hits the pan with that unmistakable savory aroma. I stir slowly, letting the meat pick up the onion and garlic, toasting just a little for depth, but not drying out. If this is already making you hungry, tap like so I know you're with me. And tell me in the comments, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil? Because in a minute, we're about to assemble the layers that make this dish look as good as it tastes, and you won't want to miss the creamy surprise in the middle. Now the mandioca is fully cooked and tender, the kind that breaks apart if you press it with a fork. Drain it well, and while it's still hot, start mashing. You'll feel it: mandioca has a different texture than potatoes, a little more elastic, more Brazil in the bite. If you notice any thick, stringy fibers, just pull them out as you go. It's normal, and it's one of those small details that makes the final mash silky instead of rustic. Bring the pot back to low heat and add butter first, letting it melt into the mash like it's disappearing on purpose. Then splash in milk gradually, a little at a time, until it turns creamy and smooth, not soupy. This is comfort food, so we want it soft enough to spread, but still able to hold a layer. Taste it now and season lightly with salt, remembering we still have the carne Sica and cheese coming. The mash should feel warm, buttery, and gentle. Over on the other burner, heat a drizzle of oil and drop in chopped onion. Listen for that first sizzle. When the onion turns translucent and sweet, add minced garlic and stir fast so it perfumes the pan without burning. Then in goes the shredded, desalted carne Sica. It hits the heat and suddenly the kitchen smells like Sunday lunch at someone's house in Brazil. Let it sauté long enough to get little golden edges, because that's where the flavor lives. If it looks dry, a tiny splash of water or a spoon of the cooking liquid loosens everything and brings the fond back into the meat. And here's the mistake that ruins this dish: rushing the desalting. If you didn't change the soaking water enough, or you didn't taste a piece before shredding, the whole Escondidinho can come out aggressively salty. So pause right now and taste the meat. If it still bites back with salt, don't panic, soak it a bit longer, change the water again, and you'll save the entire recipe. If this is already making you hungry, tap like so I know you want more Brazilian comfort food. And tell me, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil? In a second, we're going to build those layers, the creamy mash, the savory carne Sica, the requeijo, and take it straight to the oven for that bubbling, golden finish. Now that our carne Sica is smelling incredible, let's bring the whole dish together, because this is the moment where simple ingredients turn into something that looks like you've been cooking all afternoon. Keep the oven preheating, and grab a baking dish that feels right for your table. I like something ceramic, because it holds heat and serves beautifully. First, a quick check on the mash. It should be smooth, creamy, and still warm, the kind that slides off the spoon slowly. If it's too stiff, add a splash more milk and stir until it loosens. If it's too loose, just keep it over low heat for another minute, stirring, and it will tighten up. You want a texture that can be spread, not poured. Now, we build. I spread a generous layer of the mandioca mash on the bottom, like a soft pillow. Then comes the carne Sica filling, still slightly glossy from the onions and garlic, and I press it gently so every bite will get a little of everything. Here's where the comfort food magic really happens: requeijo. Spoon it across the meat in little pockets, not perfectly even, because those creamy surprises are the best part when you cut into it. If you can't find requeijo, don't worry, but if you do have it, this is what makes Escondidinho feel unmistakably Brazilian. Then we finish with the mozzarella, covering the top like a blanket. I like to add just a tiny drizzle of olive oil so it browns beautifully, but keep it simple. While you're doing this, take a second and think about the salt. This dish lives or dies on desalting the meat properly. If you rush that step, the salt concentrates as it bakes, and it can overpower everything. So if you're unsure, taste a tiny bit of the filling now. If it's salty, don't panic, balance it with a little more mash on top and go lighter on any extra seasoning. If this is making you hungry already, give the video a quick like so I know you want more Brazilian classics like this. And tell me in the comments, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil, food, or beyond? If you're enjoying the way I'm breaking this down, subscribe, because we're about to slide this into the oven and wait for that golden, bubbling top that makes the whole kitchen feel like home. Now that the mashed mandioca is smooth and steaming, and the carne Sica is fragrant from the onion and garlic, it's time for the part that makes this dish feel so special: assembling the layers. I like to use a baking dish that goes straight from oven to table, because Escondidinho is meant to arrive still bubbling, with that golden top that makes everyone lean in a little closer. Start by spreading a generous first layer of the mandioca mash on the bottom. Use the back of a spoon to smooth it out, like you're tucking in a soft blanket. Then comes the carne Sica, and this is where you'll see why we took our time sautéing it. It's not just meat, it's a filling with personality. As you spread it evenly, you can almost smell the northeast in it, that deep, savory aroma that says home cooking, even if you're miles away. And now the creamy surprise: spoon in the requeijo. Don't be shy with it. Let it fall into little pockets across the meat, because when it bakes, those pockets melt and connect everything. This is the moment when people usually ask, is this really going to hold together? And the answer is yes, as long as your mash isn't too runny. If it looks too loose, give it another minute on low heat to thicken before you layer. Cover it all with the remaining mandioca, sealing the filling like a hidden treasure. Smooth the top again, and then the final touch: mozzarella. A full, even layer, because what we want is that irresistible, bronzed crust that crackles slightly when you cut into it. I like to run a fork gently over the surface, just a few lines, so the cheese and mash catch in those ridges and brown beautifully. Into the oven it goes until the top is golden and the edges start to bubble. And while it bakes, tell me something, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil? If you're enjoying cooking your way through our flavors, give this video a quick like, and if you want more Brazilian comfort food made simple, subscribe, because as soon as this comes out of the oven, we're cutting into it together. And now comes the best part, that moment when you pull the baking dish out of the oven and the whole kitchen smells like butter, toasted cheese, and that deep, savory carne Sica. Give it a minute on the counter. I know it's tempting to dive in right away, but letting it rest just a little helps the layers settle, so when you cut in, you actually see the Escondidinho the way it's meant to be, creamy mandioca on top, juicy shredded meat underneath, and that middle line of requeijo that melts into everything like a secret. Listen to that sound when the spoon breaks the surface, soft, almost like its size. The mozzarella stretches, the edges are golden, and the filling is warm and seasoned without being aggressive. This is the kind of dish that turns an ordinary day into something special. It's simple, but it feels like care. It feels like home. If you taste and think, I want it even creamier, next time you can add a splash more milk to the mash or a little extra butter. If you want more of that roasted flavor, leave it in the oven just a few minutes longer until the top has those darker, irresistible spots. And remember the big detail that changes everything, the meat. If you desalt it patiently, changing the water and tasting a small piece before you shred, you control the salt instead of letting the salt control your whole dish. Picture serving this at the table, with rice on the side, maybe a simple salad, and people going quiet for the first few bites because it's that good. Then the comments start, what did you put in here? How is this so creamy? And you get to smile, because you know it wasn't complicated, you just followed the steps, layer by layer. Now I want to hear from you, what's your biggest curiosity about Brazil? Is it the food from a specific region, the ingredients, the traditions, the music playing in the background while people cook? If this recipe helped you, leave a like so I know to bring more Brazilian comfort food to your kitchen, and subscribe naturally because the next dish might be the one that becomes your new favorite.